In the spring of 1946, a convoy of U.S. Army trucks rolls through the narrow streets of Kleinhohenried, a village of 340 people in rural Bavaria. The war ended 11 months ago, but Germany remains under military occupation. The trucks carry 23 African American soldiers from the 555th Quartermaster Battalion. They are not here by accident. The U.S. Army has a specific strategy for black troops in occupied Germany. Keep them away from cities, away from white American soldiers, away from places where their presence might cause problems. Send them to villages so small nobody will notice them. Let them run supply depots in locations too remote to matter. The official explanation is logistics efficiency. The real reason is racial segregation extended across the Atlantic. These men fought for American freedom in a segregated military. Now they occupy Germany in continued isolation. As the trucks stop in the village square, German civilians watch from windows with expressions mixing curiosity, fear, and exhaustion from years of war. Sergeant William Carter steps down from the lead truck and surveys the village. 28 years old, from Atlanta, 3 years in uniform, and tired of being treated like a problem to be hidden. The Army sent his unit here specifically because Kleinhohenried is 42 miles from the nearest major city. The village has no nightlife, no entertainment, nothing that might lead to black soldiers interacting with German women in ways that make white officers uncomfortable. The strategy is deliberate: keep black troops isolated in rural areas, minimize contact with German civilians, prevent the racial mixing that military command fears more than any remaining Nazi resistance. Carter's unit will run a supply depot storing surplus equipment. The work is important but unglamorous. They will live in converted Wehrmacht barracks on the village edge, separate from the town, separate from white American units, separate from everything. The message is clear: you served your country, now stay out of sight. The village is rebuilding. The war destroyed parts of Kleinhohenried, though not as badly as the cities. Some houses have damaged roofs. The church steeple shows bullet holes. Most men of military age are dead, prisoners, or missing. The population is mainly women, children, and elderly. Food remains scarce. The occupation brings both fear and opportunity. German civilians need the American military for survival: food, medicine, employment, protection. But American military policy creates a complicated hierarchy. White American soldiers have more freedom, more resources, more authority. Black American soldiers have restrictions and lower priority. And German civilians, defeated and desperate, occupy the bottom. Into this complicated social structure, Carter's unit arrives with orders to remain invisible. But invisibility proves impossible in a village of 340 people where everyone knows everyone. The Americans cannot simply disappear, and the German civilians cannot simply ignore 23 men whose labor, rations, and presence immediately impact village life. Contact is inevitable. Private James Thompson works the supply depot loading dock. 22 years old, from Mississippi, drafted in 1944. He fought in France, helped liberate concentration camps, saw the absolute worst of what racial hatred could create. Now he loads boxes of canned goods onto trucks while German civilians line up for ration supplies. Among them is Anna Hoffman, 24, widowed 18 months ago when her husband died on the Eastern Front. She waits in line with her 3-year-old daughter, both wearing threadbare coats against the spring cold. The ration distribution follows strict protocols. German civilians receive food stamps from the American military government. They exchange stamps for supplies. The system is bureaucratic, slow, deliberately impersonal. But Thompson notices Hoffman struggling with her daughter, who is crying from hunger. The child looks malnourished. Thompson knows that look from the camps he helped liberate. Without thinking, he adds an extra can of condensed milk to Hoffman's ration box. She looks up, surprised, meeting his eyes for the first time. That small gesture violates multiple regulations. U.S. military policy prohibits favoritism toward German civilians. The rations are calculated precisely. Deviation from distribution protocol is punishable. But Thompson sees a hungry child, and some things matter more than regulations. Hoffman whispers thank you in broken English. Thompson nods, says nothing, continues working. The interaction lasts maybe 15 seconds, but it matters. Word spreads through the village. The black American soldiers share extra food sometimes. Not always, not openly, but when they can. The gesture is small but significant in a community where hunger remains constant. Over the following weeks, more interactions happen. German women who speak some English start brief conversations at the distribution point. They ask about America, about the soldiers' families, about life beyond this destroyed landscape. The conversations are carefully neutral, carefully brief. Both sides know the unwritten rules, but connection is forming despite the barriers. The white American officers notice. Captain Robert Patterson, the military government liaison officer, visits the supply depot in late April. He is from Alabama, 31 years old, carries deeply ingrained attitudes about race and appropriate boundaries. He watches the interactions between black soldiers and German civilians with increasing discomfort. After observing for an hour, he pulls Carter aside. Patterson's instructions are explicit. Minimize contact with German civilians, especially German women. No conversations beyond necessary business. No fraternization, no developing relationships. The rules exist for a reason, Patterson explains. They prevent complications, they maintain discipline, they preserve proper order. Carter listens without expression. He knows what Patterson really means. The military fears black soldiers developing relationships with white German women. This fear supersedes logic, supersedes the fact that Germany was America's enemy. Racial anxieties trump everything else. After Patterson leaves, Carter gathers his men. He explains the increased scrutiny, the need for caution. But he does not order them to stop helping hungry children. The village economics create dependence. The American military employs German civilians for various jobs: cleaning, laundry, construction, maintenance. The wages are low but crucial for survival. Without American employment, many families would starve. The black soldiers' supply depot becomes an employment hub. German women work in the laundry facility, cleaning American uniforms. German men too old for military service work construction, repairing the barracks. The economic relationship creates daily contact that policy cannot prevent, and in that daily contact something shifts. The German civilians expected different treatment from their American occupiers. Nazi propaganda portrayed black people as subhuman, dangerous, savage, but the reality contradicts the propaganda completely. The black American soldiers are professional, disciplined, often kind. They share cigarettes, help with heavy lifting, teach English phrases to curious children. The contrast between Nazi mythology and observed reality creates cognitive dissonance. The Germans begin questioning what else the propaganda lied about, and some begin seeing these men as individuals, not stereotypes. May 1946 brings warmer weather and longer days. The supply depot has a small break area where soldiers rest between shifts. It sits behind the main building, partially hidden from the road. Thompson often takes his lunch there, eating sea rations and smoking. One afternoon, Anna Hoffman appears. She brings a cloth-wrapped package, homemade bread, still warm. She explains in halting English that it is thanks for the extra milk that helped her daughter. Thompson is caught between gratitude and alarm. Accepting gifts from German civilians violates regulations, but refusing seems cruel given how little food Hoffman has. He accepts the bread, shares it with her. They sit on the wooden bench in uncomfortable silence. Then Hoffman asks about America. She has never left Bavaria, knows nothing of the world beyond Germany. Thompson talks about Mississippi, about cotton fields and brutal heat and segregation laws. Hoffman does not understand. She asks why America has laws separating people by race if America just fought Germany for having such laws. Thompson has no good answer. That conversation is the beginning. Over the following weeks, Thompson and Hoffman meet occasionally in the hidden break area. The meetings are irregular, brief, carefully concealed. They talk about simple things: family, childhood, hopes for the future. Hoffman describes life under Nazi rule, the propaganda, the fear, the gradual realization that everything she was taught was lies. Thompson describes growing up under Jim Crow, the separate schools and water fountains and restaurants, the violence always lurking beneath daily life. They discover unexpected parallels between Nazi Germany and segregated America. Both systems built on lies about human value, both enforced through violence and intimidation, both requiring constant vigilance to survive. The conversations are careful, tentative, but increasingly important to both. Hoffman feels less alone. Thompson feels seen as a human being rather than a problem to be hidden. Neither recognizes yet that they are falling in love, but the village notices. People always notice in small towns. And some disapprove strongly. June brings trouble. Sergeant Karl Becker, a local German police officer reinstated by the American military government, confronts Hoffman outside her home. He is 56, survived the war, fiercely protective of what he sees as traditional German values. He tells Hoffman that people are talking. She is seen spending time with the Negro soldier. It looks bad, damages her reputation. Damages her late husband's memory. Hoffman should think of her daughter, of her standing in the community. Becker's tone is paternal but contains an implicit threat. The American military has power over German civilians. If Hoffman causes problems, creates controversy, her ration allotment could be reduced. Her employment prospects could disappear. She should stay away from the American soldiers, especially the black ones. Hoffman listens with growing anger. She lost her husband to a war he did not choose. She nearly starved last winter. She will not let others dictate who she may speak with. She tells Becker this is none of his concern. Becker leaves, but the warning is clear. The village is watching. Thompson hears about the confrontation from another soldier whose German landlady gossips freely. The news fills him with guilt and concern. He never wanted to cause problems for Hoffman. That evening he tells her they should stop meeting. It is too dangerous for her. Hoffman refuses. She says she spent years following rules made by evil men. She will not do so again. The conversations matter to her. Thompson matters to her. If the village disapproves, let them disapprove. She has done nothing wrong. Thompson admires her courage but fears for her safety. He knows how communities punish women who cross racial boundaries. He saw it in Mississippi. After the war in France, he heard stories about French women who dated German soldiers, their heads shaved, paraded through streets beaten. Hoffman faces similar risks, but she remains firm. The conversations continue, now more carefully hidden, more deliberately concealed. They meet in the evenings, after dark, in the forest edge beyond the village. The secrecy feels wrong but necessary. Other relationships develop across Carter's unit. Private Robert Williams, 23, from Chicago, begins talking with Greta Mueller, a 30-year-old German woman who works at the depot cleaning crew. Corporal David Washington, 26, from Philadelphia, helps Elizabeth Schneider, 25, repair her family's damaged barn. The interactions start practical, become personal. The pattern repeats. The relationships violate every military policy about fraternization. The soldiers know the risks, the women know the risks, but connection happens anyway. Human beings cannot be kept apart by regulations alone. The village divides into factions. Younger Germans, exhausted by years of Nazi ideology, are more accepting. They see the American soldiers as individuals, many of them kind and helpful. Older Germans, raised on racial propaganda, remain hostile. They mutter about racial pollution, about the destruction of German purity. The words echo Nazi rhetoric, though the speakers now claim to have opposed the Nazis all along. The American military command grows increasingly concerned about the situation. Captain Patterson returns in July with new orders. Effective immediately, German civilian employment at the supply depot is restricted. Male civilians only age 50 and above, no women workers. The change is explicitly designed to prevent relationships from developing. Carter challenges the order, argues it will hurt the depot's efficiency. The laundry workers are experienced, reliable. Replacing them with elderly men will slow operations. Patterson does not care about efficiency. He cares about preventing racial mixing. He has heard reports about his soldiers fraternizing with German women. It stops now. Any soldier caught in an inappropriate relationship will face disciplinary action, transfer to a different unit, possible discharge, possible court-martial if the relationship involves coercion. Carter knows the threat is real. He passes the orders to his men, but private relationships cannot be controlled by military command. The women who worked at the depot now meet the soldiers elsewhere, at the village market, at church services, in the forests. The prohibition makes the relationships more secret, not less frequent. August 1946 marks a turning point. Anna Hoffman is pregnant. She knows the father is Thompson. She knows the consequences. Unmarried pregnancy brings social stigma in this conservative village. Pregnancy by a black American soldier brings exponentially worse judgment. Her family will likely disown her. Her employment prospects will vanish. She may lose custody of her existing daughter. She could face violence from hostile villagers. Hoffman considers her options with clear eyes and chooses to continue the pregnancy. She tells Thompson one evening during their secret meeting. Thompson's first reaction is fear. Then determination. He asks her to marry him. Hoffman says yes, but marriage brings its own complications. Under military regulations, soldiers must receive command approval for marriage to foreign nationals. The approval process is lengthy, bureaucratic, deliberately designed to discourage such marriages. And for black soldiers marrying white German women, approval is rarely granted. Command uses every excuse to deny applications. But Thompson applies anyway. He submits the paperwork through official channels and waits. The application denial comes 3 weeks later. Command cites multiple reasons: insufficient time in theater, inadequate financial resources, concerns about cultural compatibility. The real reason, unstated but obvious, is race. Captain Patterson delivers the denial personally, suggests Thompson should end the relationship, find a nice colored girl back home when his service ends. Thompson listens in silence. After Patterson leaves, he makes a decision. He will marry Hoffman anyway. German civil authorities can perform marriages without military approval. The marriage will not be recognized by the U.S. Army. Thompson will face disciplinary action. But the marriage will be legally valid under German law, and it will give his child a legitimate father. He discusses this with Hoffman. She understands the sacrifice he is making. Military service is his career, his livelihood. Defying command over marriage could end that career, but Thompson has spent years serving a country that treats him as second class. He is tired of following rules designed to keep him inferior. If the price of dignity is a military career, he will pay it. Thompson and Hoffman marry in the Klein-Hohenried Town Hall on September 12, 1946. The ceremony is brief, conducted by the German registrar in German with translation. 5 people attend the couple, 2 witnesses required by law, and Hoffman's daughter. No other family members come. Hoffman's parents refuse to attend their daughter's wedding to a black man. No American soldiers attend. Thompson did not tell his unit about the ceremony, fearing they would be punished for supporting his defiance. The witnesses are elderly German couple, the Bauers, who rent rooms to Thompson. They oppose the marriage but believe in following proper procedures. After the ceremony, Thompson and Hoffman walk through the village square as husband and wife. People stare, some turn away, others watch with hostile expressions. An older man spits on the ground as they pass. Hoffman clutches Thompson's arm tighter. They return to the small room Thompson rents. It is not much, but it is theirs. For the first time in both their lives, they chose love over social approval. The military response is swift. Captain Patterson summons Thompson the next day. The marriage without approval violates regulations. Thompson will be transferred immediately to a different unit in northern Germany, effective in 1 week. The transfer is presented as disciplinary action but stops short of court-martial. Patterson seems almost relieved to have a bureaucratic solution. He expected worse, expected to find coercion, expected criminal conduct he could prosecute. But the marriage is genuine, consensual, legally valid. All Patterson can do is separate the couple through transfer. Thompson says nothing during the meeting. He knew this would happen. 1 week is enough time to make arrangements. Hoffman is 3 months pregnant now. She will stay in Klein-Hohenried with her daughter. Thompson will send money when he can. They will write letters. They will survive the separation. And when Thompson's military service ends in 15 months, he will return. The plan is fragile, dependent on circumstances beyond their control, but it is better than nothing. That evening, Thompson tells Hoffman about the transfer. She cries, he does too. But before Thompson can transfer, something unexpected happens. 3 other soldiers from Carter's unit come forward. They also married German women in secret civil ceremonies. Private Williams married Greta Mueller in July. Corporal Washington married Elizabeth Schneider in August. Private Johnson married Maria Weber just last week. All hid their marriages, fearing repercussions. Thompson's defiance gives them courage to admit the truth. Captain Patterson is stunned. 4 unauthorized marriages in 1 unit. This is not individual misconduct. This is systematic defiance of military policy. Patterson escalates to higher command. What happens next surprises everyone. The division commander, General Bradley Hutchinson, visits Klein-Hohenried personally. He reviews the situation. He interviews the soldiers and their wives. He walks through the village, observes the conditions, talks with German officials. His conclusion: these marriages cannot be undone. The soldiers acted improperly but not criminally. The women are pregnant or already have children. Separating these families serves no strategic purpose and would create humanitarian problems. Hutchinson makes an unusual decision. He will not punish the soldiers further. He will recommend policy changes. General Hutchinson's reasoning is pragmatic rather than idealistic. The U.S. military will occupy Germany for years. Preventing relationships between American soldiers and German civilians is impossible. The current policy creates problems: secret relationships, unauthorized marriages, complicated family situations. Better to establish clear procedures for legitimate relationships than drive them underground. In October 1946, Hutchinson issues new guidance for his division. Soldiers may apply for marriage to German nationals. Applications will be reviewed based on genuine relationship, adequate financial resources, and character assessment. Race will not be a disqualifying factor. The guidance is limited to Hutchinson's division, not Army-wide policy, but it creates a precedent. Within months, similar policies spread to other divisions. The change is not driven by progressive ideals about racial equality. It is driven by pragmatic recognition that soldiers are human beings who form attachments regardless of regulations, but the effect is the same. For black soldiers and the German women who love them, a path forward exists. Thompson's transfer is cancelled. He will remain in Kleinho-Henried. The village reaction to the policy change is mixed. Some Germans appreciate that the Americans are taking the marriages seriously, treating them as legitimate rather than scandalous. Others remain deeply opposed on racial grounds. The local Catholic priest refuses to perform religious ceremonies for interracial couples. The Lutheran minister is more accepting but cautious. Most village businesses continue serving the soldiers and their families, though some shopkeepers remain hostile. Children at the village school bully Hoffman's daughter, calling her mother a traitor. Hoffman confronts the school teacher, demands intervention. The teacher is sympathetic but limited in authority. She can punish individual students but cannot change community attitudes. Hoffman realizes her daughter will face this for years, but she also notices something encouraging. Some German women speak to her now. Quietly, briefly, but with genuine kindness. These women also know hardship, also know loss. Some lost husbands and sons, some face their own struggles with judgmental neighbors. A few become genuine friends, creating a small support network. Thompson and Hoffman's son is born in March 1947. They name him Michael. The birth happens at the village clinic with a German midwife attending. Thompson is present despite military duties. He holds his son for the first time, this tiny mixed-race baby who represents everything the segregated American military and Nazi ideology said should not exist. Michael's birth certificate lists both parents. His nationality is German, his race is recorded as Mischling, mixed. The term carries Nazi-era connotations of contamination, but it is the official German classification. Thompson knows his son will face challenges. In Germany, as a mixed-race child in an overwhelmingly white society. In America, if they ever move there, as a black person in a segregated nation. But Thompson also knows his son will have advantages Thompson never had. Michael will grow up with a father present, with education opportunities, with the knowledge that his parents chose love despite overwhelming pressure to abandon each other. That knowledge matters, it shapes character, it builds resilience. By summer 1947, 6 interracial couples live openly in Kleinho-Henried. 8 mixed-race children have been born. The village has become unintentionally notable within the American occupation zone. Other black soldiers hear about Kleinho-Henried. Here it is a place where interracial relationships are tolerated, where the local command does not automatically punish soldiers for marrying German women. The village develops a reputation. More black soldiers request transfer to the supply depot. The unit grows from 23 men to 41. Most are married or in serious relationships with German women. Carter, still the ranking sergeant, becomes unofficial counselor to these couples. He explains German marriage law, helps with paperwork, mediates disputes. He never married himself, made a decision early that his focus would be his soldiers' welfare rather than personal relationships. He takes quiet pride in seeing these families forming, these men finding happiness. It is small rebellion against the segregation they all endured, not political revolution, just people living their lives with dignity. But sometimes that is revolution enough. The German women face the harshest social consequences. They lose family connections. Hoffman's parents still refuse contact with her or her children. Mueller's brother publicly disowned her. Weber's mother died without reconciling. These losses hurt deeply, but the women also find strength in each other. They form an informal support group. They meet weekly, share resources, watch each other's children, provide emotional support. They teach each other English phrases their husbands use. They share strategies for dealing with hostile neighbors. They celebrate births and birthdays together. The group becomes crucial to survival. Without it, the isolation would be unbearable. The women never planned to become pioneers of integration. They simply fell in love with men who treated them with respect and kindness during desperately hard times. but their choices have consequences beyond their personal lives. They are demonstrating that interracial relationships can work, that mixed-race children can thrive, that Nazi racial ideology was fundamentally false. The demonstration is not theoretical, it is lived reality. The children face unique challenges as they grow. By 1948, 10 mixed-race children live in Kleinhohenried, ages infant to 3 years. They are German by nationality but racially ambiguous in a society with rigid racial categories. Their brown skin marks them as different in the overwhelmingly white village. Some neighbors show kindness, others remain hostile. The village school must decide how to integrate these children when they reach school age. Some parents threaten to remove their children if mixed-race students attend. Others argue all children deserve education regardless of parentage. The school director, a woman named Frau Klein who survived the war as a secret anti-Nazi, makes a firm decision. All children will attend, no segregation. Parents who object may teach their children at home. No child will be excluded based on race. Klein's decision is controversial but holds. When the first mixed-race children start school in fall 1949, some white parents do withdraw their children, but most remain. Within months, the presence of mixed-race students becomes normalized. The children are just children. The story spreads beyond Kleinhohenried. American journalists hear about the village where black soldiers married German women and created integrated families. Life magazine sends a photographer in August 1948. The resulting photo essay published in October shows the families at home, at work, at play. The images are controversial. Southern newspapers condemn the marriages as race mixing. Northern newspapers praise them as proof democracy works. Black newspapers give the story front-page coverage, celebrating these men who defied segregation abroad even as Jim Crow persists at home. The publicity brings mixed results. More black soldiers seek assignment to Kleinhohenried, hoping to find similar acceptance. But the publicity also hardens opposition. White officers who tolerated the marriages now face pressure to crack down. Some married soldiers face transfers to other units. Some families must relocate, but the policy allowing approved marriages remains in place. The precedent holds, and other villages develop similar patterns. Kleinhohenried is not unique anymore. It is one of dozens of German communities where interracial families form. By 1949, Thompson faces a decision. His military service ends in August. He can re-enlist or return to civilian life. Re-enlisting means staying in Germany, keeping his income, maintaining housing. Leaving means returning to America with his German wife and mixed-race son. The choice is complicated by American law. Anti-miscegenation laws in 29 states criminalize interracial marriage. Mississippi, Thompson's home state, has particularly harsh laws. If Thompson returns there with his family, their marriage could be declared void. He could face criminal prosecution. Even in states without such laws, social hostility toward interracial couples remains intense. Thompson discusses this with Hoffman. They consider staying in Germany permanently, but Germany has its own problems. The economy struggles, food rationing continues. Hoffman misses nothing about Nazi Germany, but she fears what America might offer instead. After weeks of discussion, they make a decision. They will move to California. Anti-miscegenation laws exist there, but the black community is large and the laws are rarely enforced. Thompson has cousins in Los Angeles who can help them settle. August 1949, Thompson's military service officially ends. The family prepares to leave Germany. The U.S. Army provides transportation for soldiers returning home, but not for foreign wives. Thompson must pay for Hoffman and Michael's passage. The cost is substantial, nearly $400, equal to 3 months of military pay. Thompson saved carefully. He also receives help from an unexpected source. The German families who employed American soldiers through the occupation years pool resources. They contribute money toward passage for the wives and children. The gesture surprises Thompson. Some of these families opposed the marriages. But they recognize these women sacrificed much to be with American soldiers, and they understand how hard building a new life in America will be. The day before departure, the village holds a small farewell gathering. Not everyone attends, but 40 people come, German civilians and American soldiers. They share food, exchange addresses, promise to write letters. The priest who refused to bless Thompson's marriage does not attend. But Frau Klein, the school director, does. She wishes Michael good luck in America. The journey to America takes 18 days, train to Bremerhaven, then ocean liner to New York, then cross-country by train to Los Angeles. Hoffman has never been on a ship. Michael, 2 years old, finds everything overwhelming. The crossing is rough. Hoffman spends much of it seasick, but eventually they arrive. New York Harbor, September 1949. The Statue of Liberty rises from the water. Hoffman thinks about what the statue represents: freedom, opportunity, new beginnings. She hopes it is true. She hopes America will be better than Germany. But she also notices how people stare at them. A black man, a white woman, a mixed-race child. Some stares are curious, some are hostile. Even in New York, supposedly progressive, the stares are constant. Thompson sees them too. Realizes nothing has changed in America while he was overseas. The country he fought for still judges him by his skin color, but he also realizes something else: he has changed. He learned in Germany that he does not need approval from people who hate him. He needs only to live with dignity and care for his family. Los Angeles in 1949 is complicated. The black community is large and vibrant, centered in South Central and Watts, but housing discrimination is fierce. Restrictive covenants prevent black families from buying homes in white neighborhoods. The covenants are supposedly illegal after the 1948 Supreme Court ruling, but enforcement is inconsistent. Thompson's cousins help them find an apartment in a mixed neighborhood. The area is not wealthy, the building needs repairs, but the rent is affordable and the neighbors are tolerant. Hoffman adjusts slowly to American life. Everything is different: the food, the language rhythms, the social customs. In Germany, she was persecuted for marrying a black man. In America, she discovers a different complexity. Some white people treat her as a race traitor. Some black people are suspicious of her, wondering if she truly loves Thompson or simply used him to escape Germany. The scrutiny is constant, but Hoffman also finds allies. Black women who married overseas or who have white partners themselves. They understand the challenges. They create another support network. Thompson finds work at an aircraft factory. The pay is decent. The work is similar to his military maintenance experience. But the factory is segregated: separate entrances, separate restrooms, separate break areas for white and black workers. Thompson finds the segregation more galling now than before military service. In Germany, for all its problems, he lived integrated with German civilians. He worked alongside them. He married one. Now he is back in America, back to separate water fountains. The irony is bitter, but he needs the income, so he tolerates it. Hoffman visits the factory once to bring Thompson lunch he forgot. She sees the segregation. Sees the separate entrances. Sees the way white workers stare at her for being with a black man. That evening, she tells Thompson she understands now, understands why he was willing to stay in Germany. Understands why some black soldiers she knew in Klein-Hohenried chose to remain in Europe permanently rather than return to American segregation. Thompson nods, says they will make it work. They have survived worse. Michael starts kindergarten in 1951. The school is integrated, one of the few in Los Angeles that serves both black and white students, but integration on paper does not mean acceptance in practice. Some white parents complain about Michael's presence. They do not want their children associating with Negro children, they tell the principal. The principal points out Michael is biracial. The parents do not care. One drop of black blood makes him Negro under American racial logic. Michael faces bullying from both white and black children. White kids call him racial slurs. Black kids question why his mother is white, whether she truly loves his father or just wanted an American passport. Michael comes home crying more than once. Hoffman comforts him in German, then English. She tells him he is perfect exactly as he is. She tells him the problem is not him but the people who judge him. Thompson tells Michael stories about Germany, about how his parents fell in love despite everyone saying they should not. Michael listens but does not fully understand. He is 5, he just wants to play without being judged. Letters arrive regularly from Germany. The Klein-Hohenried families write with updates. More interracial couples married, more mixed-race children born. The village school now has a dozen biracial students. Frau Klein, the school director, writes that the children are doing well academically and socially. The initial hostility has largely faded. The children are accepted as part of the community. Reading these letters, Hoffman feels conflicting emotions. She is glad the German families found acceptance, but she wonders if they made the wrong choice leaving. Maybe life in Germany would have been easier for Michael than life in America. Thompson reminds her that Germany has its own problems. The economy is still recovering. Anti-black racism exists there too, even if expressed differently, and America, for all its segregation, has opportunities. Michael can get an education, he can build a career. The laws will change eventually, Thompson believes. America is not perfect, but it can improve. Hoffman wants to believe this. Some days she does, other days she doubts. The Korean War begins in June 1950. The U.S. military reactivates some reservists. Thompson receives notice he may be called back. The possibility terrifies Hoffman. She already lost one husband to war. She cannot lose another, but Thompson's military obligation ended. The army decides not to reactivate him. The relief is profound, but the war does affect them indirectly. Defense industry expands. Thompson's factory increases production, more jobs become available, and crucially the factory begins desegregating, not from moral conviction but from practical necessity. The military demands faster production. Segregated facilities slow operations, so the separate entrances close. The separate break areas combine. Black and white workers now share facilities. Some white workers quit in protest, others adapt. The change is imperfect and reluctant. But it is change. Thompson notices something else. Young white workers returning from Korea are different from the older generation. They served in integrated combat units. They saw black soldiers fight and die beside them. They are less likely to support rigid segregation. The war, horrible as it is slowly shifting American attitudes. By 1952, Thompson and Hoffman have a second child, a daughter, Elizabeth. Michael, now 5, is excited about having a sister. Elizabeth's birth is easier than Michael's was. The hospital is integrated. The staff treats Hoffman with professional courtesy. Things are slowly improving, or maybe Los Angeles is simply more tolerant than other places. Either way, Hoffman feels less judged than when they first arrived. She has found a community of interracial families. They meet monthly, share experiences, support each other. The group includes about 20 families, some with black husbands and white wives like hers, others with white husbands and Asian wives who married during the war. All face similar challenges, all find strength in community. The group discusses practical matters: which neighborhoods are safe, which schools are accepting, which employers discriminate, but they also celebrate. Birthdays, holidays, achievements. The gatherings remind everyone they are not alone. Their families are valid, their love is real, their children deserve full lives. The support is crucial. Thompson receives a letter in spring 1953 from Sergeant Carter. Carter remained in the Army, made it a career. He is now stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. He writes about the continuing challenges black soldiers face in the South. Even though the military officially desegregated in 1948, implementation is slow and resisted. Off base, black soldiers face Jim Crow laws. On base, informal segregation persists in many units, but Carter also notes progress. More black officers are being promoted, more units are genuinely integrated. The change is gradual but real. Carter asks about Michael, about whether he faces problems in school. Thompson writes back honestly, says Michael struggles sometimes, says America is hard for mixed-race children. But says Michael is smart and strong, says Michael will survive and thrive. Carter's response is encouraging. He writes that the future belongs to children like Michael, children who represent what America could be rather than what it was. Children who prove that racial barriers are artificial, that people can love across lines others drew. Thompson keeps that letter, shows it to Michael years later. The Supreme Court rules in Brown v. Board of Education in May 1954. School segregation is unconstitutional. The decision sends shockwaves through America. Southern states vow resistance. But the ruling gives hope to families like the Thompsons. If schools must integrate, other barriers might fall too. Hoffman does not fully understand the American legal system, but she understands that this ruling matters. She asks Thompson to explain it. He tells her that for the first time, America's highest court declared racial separation illegal. The decision does not end racism, but it removes legal foundation for segregation. It gives people tools to fight discrimination. Hoffman thinks about Klein-Hohenried, thinks about Frau Klein refusing to segregate the village school, insisting all children deserved education regardless of race. Klein made that decision in 1949, 5 years before the American Supreme Court reached the same conclusion. Sometimes individuals lead where institutions follow. Sometimes small acts of conscience in obscure villages prefigure great legal rulings. The connection pleases Hoffman. Perhaps their sacrifice meant something after all. Michael graduates high school in 1963. He is 18, intelligent, ambitious. He wants to attend college, study engineering. His grades are excellent. But college admissions are complicated for mixed-race students. Some universities in the South will not admit him because they consider him Negro. Some universities elsewhere question whether he is truly black enough for minority scholarships. Michael faces the same problem his whole life, not fitting cleanly into racial categories that America demands, but he persists. He applies to UCLA, he is accepted. The acceptance letter arrives in April. The whole family celebrates. Michael will be the first in his family to attend university. Thompson never had that opportunity. Hoffman's family in Germany never imagined such possibilities for her children. But here is Michael, son of a black American soldier and a German widow, accepted to a major American university. The achievement feels impossible and inevitable simultaneously, impossible given all the barriers. Inevitable given Michael's determination. That evening, Hoffman writes to Frau Klein in Germany, tells her that Michael is going to university, thanks her for standing up for mixed-race children's education 15 years ago. Letters still arrive from Kleinhohenried. The village has changed dramatically. The mixed-race children born in the late 1940s are now teenagers and young adults. Several attended university in Munich or Frankfurt. Two became teachers, one studied medicine. The original hostility has faded almost completely. The village is proud of these children now, proud of their accomplishments. American journalists occasionally visit, writing follow-up articles about the famous integration village. The articles are generally positive, though they sometimes romanticize the struggles these families faced. Reading the articles, Hoffman notices the journalists rarely mention how hard those early years were, how frightening the hostility felt, how uncertain the future seemed. The articles present the story as inspirational triumph, which is partly true, but they omit the fear, the isolation, the daily discrimination. Perhaps that is necessary. Perhaps the world needs inspirational stories more than painful truths, but Hoffman remembers the full truth, remembers nights crying from loneliness, remembers her daughter being bullied at school. Remembers wondering if they made terrible mistake. The triumph is real, but it was not easy or inevitable. The civil rights movement accelerates through the early 1960s. Sit-ins, freedom rides, marches. The Thompson family watches on television. Michael participates in some UCLA demonstrations. Thompson is proud but worried. He knows how violent the opposition can be. He remembers Mississippi, remembers what happens to black people who challenge white supremacy. But Michael is determined. He says his generation will finish what the previous generation started. He says the interracial families, the mixed-race children, prove integration works. They are living evidence that racial barriers are social constructions, not natural law. Thompson realizes his son is using his own existence as political argument. Michael's very being challenges segregation. The family he comes from demonstrates that black and white people can love each other, build lives together, raise children successfully. The personal is political. Michael understands this instinctively. Hoffman watches her son become an activist with mixed feelings. She is proud of his courage, but she also fears for his safety. She has lost too much to war and violence. She cannot bear losing her son to racial hatred. Thompson dies in November 1967. Heart attack, sudden and unexpected. He is 53. He lived to see the Civil Rights Act pass, see segregation legally ended, see his son graduate college. He did not live to see Michael marry, see his grandchildren, see the full fruits of the life he built. The funeral is held at a small church in south-central Los Angeles. The congregation is mixed, black and white, military veterans and civilian workers, American-born and immigrants. Carter attends, now a retired master sergeant. He speaks at the funeral about Thompson's courage. About how Thompson married for love when military command forbade it. About how Thompson defied segregation simply by living with dignity. Carter says Thompson was a quiet hero, not someone who sought attention or glory. Just someone who believed people deserved respect regardless of race, who acted on that belief even when it cost him. The words comfort Hoffman. She knows Thompson was not perfect, but he was good. He loved her and their children completely. That was enough. That was everything. After Thompson's death, Hoffman considers returning to Germany, but her life is in America now. Her children are American. Her grandchildren, Michael married in 1966 and has a son, are American. She stays in Los Angeles. Michael gets a job as an aerospace engineer. Elizabeth becomes a teacher working in integrated schools. Both have their father's quiet dignity, their mother's fierce determination. Both marry Michael to a black woman, Elizabeth to a white man. Both have children who grow up in a more integrated America than their parents knew, not perfect, not equal, but better. Hoffman watches her grandchildren play without understanding the barriers their grandparents faced. She is glad for this, glad they can take normalcy for granted, but she also worries they will forget the struggles. She writes a memoir in German about her life, about meeting Thompson in Kleinhohenried, about falling in love during occupation, about the courage it took to marry across racial lines, about raising mixed-race children in hostile environments. She writes so her grandchildren will know, so they will understand what it cost to build the life they inherited. In 1987, Hoffman returns to Kleinhohenried for the first time in 38 years. She's 65, widowed 20 years, traveling with Michael and Elizabeth. The village has modernized. New buildings replace war-damaged ones, the economy recovered, but the church and town hall remain in some old families. Frau Klein is still alive, 92 years old, living in a care facility. Hoffman visits her. Klein recognizes her immediately. They talk for hours in German about the old days, about the black American soldiers who came in 1946, about the controversy over the mixed-race children. About Klein's decision to integrate the school. Klein says she never doubted the decision. Children are children, they deserved education. The village eventually agreed. Now Kleinhohenried is known for its history of early integration. A small museum displays photographs from the occupation era, pictures of the black soldiers and their German wives, pictures of the mixed-race children who proved integration could work. Hoffman sees her younger self in those photographs. Sees Thompson, sees the life they built from nothing. The museum validates their sacrifice. The legacy of Kleinhohenried and similar villages is complex. These communities did not end racism. They did not transform American or German society, but they proved something important. They proved interracial families could work. They proved mixed-race children could thrive. They proved that love could transcend racial boundaries drawn by prejudice systems. The proof was not theoretical, it was lived experience. Hundreds of families, thousands of children. Living evidence that racial barriers were social constructions, not natural laws. The impact spread slowly. The children of these unions went to universities, built careers, had their own children. They carried forward the lesson their parents taught, that human value does not depend on racial purity. That dignity comes from how you treat others, not what color your skin is. Some of these children became teachers, spreading these lessons. Some became activists fighting for civil rights. Some simply lived their lives with quiet integrity, demonstrating through example. All contributed to gradual social change, not dramatic revolution, but steady, persistent pressure against racial barriers. Academic studies of post-war Germany now recognize these interracial families as important historical phenomenon. Researchers document how these relationships challenged both Nazi racial ideology and American segregation simultaneously. The relationships were acts of resistance, even when the people involved did not see themselves as political. They simply loved each other, but their love had political consequences because it existed in societies that declared such love impossible, illegal, immoral. The German women who married black American soldiers lost family, community, country. They chose love over social acceptance. The black American soldiers defied military authority, risked careers, challenged segregation. They chose love over safety, and the children born from these unions embodied living refutation of racial theories. Their existence proved races could mix. Their success proved mixed-race children were not inferior. Their mere being was political statement. The families never sought to be historical figures. They sought only to live with dignity, but history made them significant anyway. The Loving v. Virginia decision in 1967 finally struck down all state anti-miscegenation laws. The Supreme Court ruled that laws banning interracial marriage violated the Constitution. The decision came too late for Thompson, who died 6 months later, but it validated the choice he and Hoffman made 21 years earlier. Their marriage, illegal in 29 states when they moved to America, was now protected by the highest court. The decision cited the fundamental right to marry. The court said marriage is a basic civil right that cannot be denied based on race. The words sound obvious now, but in 1967 they were revolutionary. They declared that the government cannot regulate who people love based on racial categories. The principle was simple but profound. and it built on years of interracial couples living openly, proving their relationships were genuine, demonstrating their families could thrive. Families like the Thompsons provided the lived evidence that made the legal argument credible. Their sacrifice helped change the law. By the 1990s, interracial marriage is increasingly common in America, not universally accepted, not without challenges, but no longer illegal, no longer scandalous in most communities. The change is dramatic. In 1946, perhaps 1% of marriages crossed racial lines. By 1995, nearly 3% do. The numbers are small but growing, and the social attitudes shift faster than marriage rates. Young people especially are comfortable with interracial relationships. They grew up seeing mixed-race families, attending integrated schools, working in diverse environments. They do not carry the same racial anxieties their grandparents did. Hoffman watches these changes with satisfaction. She's 73 now, living independently in Los Angeles. Her children visit regularly. Her grandchildren bring great-grandchildren. The family is large, diverse, thriving. When great-grandchildren ask about her life, Hoffman tells stories about Germany, about meeting their great-grandfather during the occupation, about falling in love when it was forbidden. The children listen with interest but without fully understanding. Their world is so different, they cannot imagine laws against interracial marriage. Michael publishes his mother's memoir in 1998. He translates it from German to English, adds historical context and photographs. The book is titled In War's Shadow. Love Across the Color Line in Post-War Germany. It receives modest attention, some academic reviews, a few readings at bookstores and universities, nothing spectacular, but the people who read it are deeply moved. They write letters to Hoffman, thanking her for sharing her story. Some are children of similar unions, some are researchers studying this period, some are simply people who believe love matters more than racial categories. The letters comfort Hoffman. She spent so many years wondering if the sacrifice was worth it, wondering if choosing love over social approval was right. The letters confirm it was. Her story mattered. Her children thrived. Her grandchildren and great-grandchildren live better lives because she and Thompson had courage 50 years ago. The validation is not dramatic, but it is real, and it is enough. The interracial family support group that helped Hoffman in the 1950s still exists 50 years later. The original members are elderly or deceased, but new families join constantly. The challenges evolve. In the 1950s, the challenge was legal prohibition and social hostility. By 2000, the challenges are more subtle. Less outright racism, more microaggressions, less legal barriers, more social awkwardness. Mixed-race children still navigate identity questions. They still face questions about what are you. They still get told they are not black enough or not white enough. But they also have resources earlier generations lacked. They have mixed-race role models. They have social acceptance in many communities. They have legal protection against discrimination. The progress is real even if incomplete. The group celebrates this progress while acknowledging ongoing challenges. They honor the pioneers like Thompson and Hoffman. They tell new families that the struggle is worth it, that love transcends social constructions of race. That children of mixed heritage are not tragic or confused but beautiful and whole. Anna Hoffman dies peacefully in her sleep in September 2004. She is 82 years old. She lived long enough to see her great-great-grandchildren, long enough to see interracial marriage become increasingly normalized in America. Long enough to witness the election of politicians who openly supported mixed-race families. Long enough to see the world change in ways she could not have imagined when she first met Thompson in 1946. Her funeral is large. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, friends from 6 decades of Los Angeles life, members of the interracial family support group. Researchers who studied her generation's experiences. The eulogy emphasizes her courage. She was widowed at 22 in a destroyed country. She fell in love with a black American soldier when such love was forbidden. She left everything familiar to move to a country that judged her harshly. She raised children under discrimination. She built a life through determination. She never sought recognition, but her life mattered. Her choices changed her family's trajectory, and her family's success helped change America. The Klein Henry Museum expands in 2006, creating a permanent exhibition on the Black American soldiers and their German families. The exhibit includes photographs, letters, oral histories, artifacts. It tells the story honestly, shows the discrimination these families faced, shows the courage required, shows the children who grew up between cultures, shows the long-term impact. The museum becomes minor tourist destination. School groups visit, history enthusiasts visit, descendants of the original families visit. Some descendants still live in Clanehohenried, others are scattered globally, but they return for reunions. The village remains proud of its integration history. It was not perfect. Many villagers were hostile for years, but the village adapted, accepted, grew. The mixed-race children who once faced discrimination are now held up as proof that integration works. The irony is not lost on the surviving family members. The same community that once persecuted them now celebrates them, but perhaps that is how social change works, slowly, grudgingly, imperfectly, but real nonetheless. Academic research on the children of Black American soldiers and German women reveals important patterns. These children, now elderly, faced unique challenges growing up. In Germany, they were Besatzungskinder, occupation children often stigmatized. In America, they navigated complex racial hierarchies, but research also shows resilience. The children who had strong family support thrived. The children whose parents stayed together had better outcomes. The children who were told their existence mattered, that they belonged in the world, succeeded despite obstacles. The research validates what Hoffman and Thompson always believed. That love is not enough by itself, but love combined with determination, with refusal to accept society's judgment, with commitment to children's well-being, that combination can overcome tremendous barriers. The research also notes that these children pioneered multiracial identity long before it became recognized category. They lived as mixed race when society demanded they choose one race. They proved mixed identity is valid, legitimate, whole. Their existence helped create space for future multiracial generations. In 2010, the surviving Black American soldiers who served in the Clanehohenried area during occupation are honored at a ceremony in Germany. 8 men attend, all in their 80s. They are accompanied by children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. The German government issues formal recognition of their service and their courage in forming interracial families during difficult times. The recognition is largely symbolic, but symbols matter. For decades, these men were told their marriages were mistakes, were told they betrayed their race or their country by marrying white German women, were told their children would suffer. Now they stand honored, their choices validated, their families thriving. The ceremony includes speeches from German officials, from the American ambassador, from descendants. But the most powerful moment is when the 8 elderly men simply stand together, holding hands with their elderly German wives or widows, looking at the crowd of children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. That image of love persisting across decades, across barriers, creating life, says more than any speech. That image is the story's true conclusion. The story of Black American soldiers and their German wives is one small chapter in the long history of challenging racial barriers. These families did not end racism. They did not create a post-racial society. But they proved something essential. They proved that love can transcend the boundaries others draw, that families can thrive across racial lines, that children of mixed heritage are not tragic but whole. That courage sometimes means simply living your life with integrity despite social judgment. The families paid a price for their choices. They faced discrimination, isolation, hostility, but they also gained something precious. They built lives based on genuine connection rather than social approval. They raised children who learned that human worth is not determined by race. They created families that demonstrated integration is possible. Their legacy continues in thousands of descendants now living throughout the world. Descendants who might never have existed if their ancestors had not chosen love over fear, dignity over social acceptance. That is how social change actually happens, not through grand declarations, but through countless individual choices to treat others with respect regardless of what society says.